What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the DK Garage. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Joe.
Well, we got a little bit of a different episode in store for the folks today, Joe. Bit of an odd week. NASCAR is, again, testing us content providers with same-day qualifying. And I think it's even a shorter gap than it was for COTA. And we were at COTA, so it was a little easier. We won't be at Road America this week.
No, I know. I'm sure some of you out there are, and it's exciting to have NASCAR out and about at different tracks and just coming to your area and more occurrences. And it's something that we got to take part in multiple times already this season. So it's
Hope
awesome.
it continues.
Yeah, awesome. It's awesome that there are new tracks. It's another road course, which is, to me, exciting. I remember playing the Road America course on multiple video game platforms over the years, and it's just been a fun course and track to kind of see now. The Cup Series get to partake on it. Xfinity's been there for the past handful of years.
It's really an iconic track.
It really is. It's really awesome. It's narrow. There's a lot of stuff we can talk about when we get to that point. But it is an odd week. I'm going to be out doing the July 4th weekend with the family. We're going out camping and doing some fun things there. So it's going to be difficult to do content. We're going to get this podcast out, and with the way you said qualifying's taking place, we aren't going to have time to do a race day rundown. We're planning on doing our DK Impact, which is definitely something that will be helpful, hopefully, for you to build lineups on. We'll talk about some data and things of that nature to help you get some idea of who some focuses should be on whenever it does come time to qualifying.
Yeah, I'm really bummed that we're not going to be able to do one this week. The race day rundown is really fun. I mean, of course, I love doing the podcast as well, but it's just a different animal. And I think so far we've gotten good feedback on it. So I think people are really enjoying that. And so that's awesome. You know, we like doing it. They enjoy it. So perfect combo. But yeah, it's just not going to feasibly work out at this time. But, you know, as we continue to grow as a channel, we'll continue to upgrade our stuff, and we'll continue to provide top tier coverage as best we can, you know. But this week is going to be kind of like about the family, which, hey, you got to have those times too. You know, I got family coming in from out of town, so yeah, we're going to be really enjoying America's birthday, and I'm all about that. So it's going to be fun. I think this is still going to be a great podcast. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, good golly, Pocono. I was blown away by how good both races were. Like I said, and I think in all the episodes that we did, traditionally Pocono really hasn't been the most exciting race, but last year the doubleheader was pretty exciting. It was a shorter race. I think that's what helps. It used to be like a 500-mile event, and you knock it down to 325 or 350. I think it really helps out, and I just could not believe that both races, it came down to fuel management, fuel strategy, which is really not that common in today's era of NASCAR. But that's kind of classic NASCAR, is can your equipment survive, and will you make it on fuel? And the fact that these shorter races both came down to it, especially the second race, which that one stings a little bit, but I thought overall both races were great. What was your takeaway from the weekend?
It was a fun and fantastic weekend. It really did remind me more of a classic NASCAR race in the style, because strategy was a huge part of it. And we saw the guys that had to suffer in the second race, and then the equipment failures and everything that happened to propel Alex Bowman into his third win of the season whenever Kyle Larson blew the tire. Like, it's just one of those things. I talked about this kind of being one of those deals where Kyle Larson might not be an absolute lock because of potential for equipment failures and things like that. It happened on the final turn. There's so much stuff about what happened this weekend that I do miss as a diehard fan, how much strategy hasn't been playing into the effect when we have these different horsepower packages and things like that. It just hasn't been as much of a part of the sport here recently. But like you said, making the shorter race, you could do it on a couple stops, and people were utilizing those situations differently, and it really did amount to a lot of different results. And the Sunday race really, I haven't seen that many people pit last lap like that for fuel in like a decade. It was cool to really see that. It was awesome to watch.
It was really exciting. I mean, like you said, Larson was great on day one. He led I believe the third most laps. Kyle Busch was really good. He led 30 laps on the first day. Really looked like it could kind of come down to that Kyle and Kyle show. And then late race restart. Choose cone comes into play. The top is better almost every single restart. There were some people talking about it even before the race started that I think it was starting in the 5th position on the inside, the average place differential was like -2 or 2.5, which was like the worst at any track. Like that is the worst place to be in. So in that last pit stop or the last choose, several guys went to the top lane because they know they're sitting duck, but Alex Bowman didn't. And Alex Bowman was decent most of the day. We didn't really talk him up too much other than the fact that, hey, he's won 2 races. He's in Hendrick equipment. They're on a roll. So he can never be you wouldn't say a complete fade. I think he was starting 13th. So it was a little PD upside, but I mean, I watched most of the race, obviously, and he wasn't up there battling, but he takes it. He ends up starting second, first on the inside row, and somehow he got it to stick. And then he led, and Larson was doing everything he could to get around him. Finally, I forget how many laps to go. What was it, maybe like 4 or 5 laps to go? Larson finally gets around him. Bowman, I was listening. I flipped over to Bowman's radio, and it's the last lap. They're going into the last turn, and he starts apologizing to his team. And his team, I won't say exactly what they said, but basically they were like, you need to focus on finishing this race. You never know what can happen. And I'm not kidding. There's a little, like maybe a 5-second delay on the scanner that I use and the TV. So almost immediately after that guy said that, Kyle Larson's tire blows and he smacks the wall, and Bowman takes home the checkered. No, I don't think I saw anyone say that Bowman was going to potentially win that race. Nobody.
No, it was ridiculous. It was so exciting and so unknown or so wild that finish. I was sitting watching the race and about to go into the final corner, and I was about to turn the TV off because Larson won again, and I got to go do this. And right whenever I was about to hit the power button, I saw the tire blow, and he goes into the wall, and then everybody got excited, and there goes Alex Bowman right there at the right time. He had done what he needed to do. And that team continually can find their way to pull it out at the end. They aren't always dominant, but they find a way to get it done, having a fast pit stop and then having the ability to have the choose. And I do like NBC's coverage of the choose cone. That has been something that has been fun to watch because that really is a big part of the race. Whenever you're deciding where you're going to start, and we saw that on both races, having that ability. And Hendrick, that first race looked really dominant. William Byron is somebody that looked strong in both races. He led a good portion in both races, and then due to the fuel strategy in the second race, he was one of the guys that had to pit. So
I had a lot of Byron.
There was a lot of things you could really talk about on this weekend because it was a big weekend with having 2 races. That's really a lot that affects the long-term strategy for these teams.
I was really impressed the way after Larson smacked that wall, he still brought it home 9th. Normally that's it, but to still get a top 10, because it's not like Martinsville where you kind of hit the wall and you're like right there to, cross the finish line. That's a good little ways that he had to drive after smacking the crap out of that wall. Brings it home 9th, so I think he was starting 12th on that second day. was expensive on DraftKings. I didn't really see it working out. It didn't really work out. He still brought it home second in that second race. Now, there was fuel strategy involved. He was getting really close too, but he benefited from guys in front of him having to pit late because they just didn't have enough. Because he didn't ever run top 3 in the day. He ran in the back of Hamlin like early in the race, and it broke his nose or messed up his nose. And it was funny. I saw somewhere on Twitter, if I could remember, I would say who it was, but someone on Twitter, maybe it was Jeff Gluck, I'm not sure, was saying that I think the rumor in the garages is that Hendrick has something going on with that nose. And they either NASCAR is going to or it might or did kind of quietly come down on him because they think that they may have brought a little bit different setup to Pocono because they had maybe some sort of an advantage on the front of their cars. But I guess it's not a solid enough thing that no one in the major reporting world wants to kind of stick their neck out on and say for sure. But that is kind of the rumor that's been going around in the garage, that's what Hendrick has figured out. And that's been their advantage these last few weeks, is something to do with the front end of that car.
So we're going to see a little bit of a change going
This
forward.
might be when you kind of pull back. I mean, we saw, teams last year start the year off great and then faded kind of as the year went on, and then others started off not great and then finished really strong, like a Chase Elliott. I kind of expected at some point Hendrick will probably pull back a little bit, or the other teams make it look like it because they have finally caught up. But yeah, maybe NASCAR has found something, and instead of making a big deal and trying to say, well, you broke the rules, maybe it's just such a fine line that they're like, no more. So we'll see how Hendrick performs. But if they did change the front end of their car, they didn't do much because they were still good in both races. The finishes may not show it completely. The only one who was not great, really, and it was mostly bad luck, was Chase Elliott.
Yeah, and the thing I really don't want to overlook is the ability of Kyle Busch on both days, especially on Sunday. He was able to find a second-place finish on Saturday, which is strong. You're looking, and I knew at some point he would start getting on a roll, and it seems like he has, finishing second on Saturday and then coming in on Sunday and winning stuck in fourth gear. Like, I don't think most people these days understand being stuck in a gear. Most people haven't drove and had to deal with the clutch or anything. So doing something along those lines, and then being able to time the pit stop right to be at full speed at the green. And there was so much stuff that they couldn't even cover that you have to comprehend as a fan of the sport and of racing in general. Like, it was awesome. Like, you cannot fathom how much that team had to go through. And there was a guy in his car on the pit stop trying to get it out of gear. Wild.
Look, I need to get a promo code from NASCAR because I'm about to give them a big shout out. But if you really do enjoy watching the races, I highly recommend, if you're not going to get, I don't know how the bigger scanner works. I don't have one of those. I just use the NASCAR app. And it works pretty great most times. For whatever reason, it has not worked great when I've been at the track, when I'd really like it to work. That's a little bone I have, but whatever. But when I'm watching the races here at the house, you can pick any driver you want. And, I was shuffling through trying to get a better idea of what's happening going on in the race. And I had actually, I think, texted you, and I was listening to Hamlin's radio, and then his spotter had relayed to him that, hey, something's going on with 18. I think he's stuck in fourth gear. I don't know much else. And so I texted you, and then, I don't know what, 30 seconds later, broadcast comes on. They're like, oh, developing story. Kyle Busch is in fourth gear. So you get all that information a little bit quicker. And anyone who listened to Kyle Busch's radio knows it was pretty crazy throughout the day. One point, he was leading, doing well, singing in the car, and then he is literally saying, well, guys, we can try maybe one more time, or we can just go to the house because this thing's stuck in fourth gear and there's no clutch left. I got nothing for you. He said, paraphrasing, but he said something to that effect. either one more shot, but it's probably not going to work, so we could just go to the house. And then he ends up winning the race. And then all that timing stuff that you're talking about, yeah, you hear him going over that with his crew chief, trying to time it, and some of them are like, yeah, we didn't actually get that. And it's like, that's kind of a miss, but they were still able to somehow make it work. Unbelievable. They had that one, I don't know if you really caught this or not, just watching. They were coming to the green, or had one more lap, I think, on one of the last restarts. And so they brought him down knowing that his clutch was no good. They wanted to do like one more little thing and top it off with fuel. And that's when he was like, I got no clutch, but okay. And they got it going. And that one extra lap, he had to start at the back anyway, so might as well. He was able to get just a little extra fuel and was able to go a little quicker. And I think he potentially forced Hamlin to go a little sooner, because I think Hamlin was right there on the edge, but I think Busch going when he did kind of forced Hamlin to push it a little sooner, and he had to pit late.
Yeah, strategy was a huge part. It was an old school NASCAR race. I definitely enjoyed having that back-to-back weekend. I think it was something that hopefully we get to look forward to. And but even Kyle Busch, after winning that, he said he's not necessarily a fan of having back-to-back races or even having two races at the same track. He kind of wants to share the love, which they're doing. Road America is a new track on the course. So we'll be there for this weekend. Anything else that you want to touch on from Pocono? Because I think Road America is something we can dabble in and have some conversations about, because there are some unknowns for these Cup guys.
Well, I don't want to move on just quite yet, because if there's one more thing that we should touch on, I think it's this. And, we're critical of this. We will be critical of drivers when they deserve it. And I think every time we've been critical of this driver, we're just pointing out our honest opinion. And we didn't really think too much of him the first race. He was more playable the first race. The second race, I really didn't think that he was playable or worth it. But Bubba Wallace got the team's first top 5 in 23XI racing. It took him being in the DraftKings car, which was pretty awesome. Kind of whiffed on that one again. I may have had one lineup with him. But that was really good, because he finished 14th in that first race, which gave him a pretty good starting position. And he didn't maintain it the entire race, but he was up there for a good part of it. Good fuel strategy. Obviously, if those guys in front of him don't pit, it's, top 10, which is still great. But they made it work. I don't know if this is going to be the momentum to kind of carry him through the rest of the year. We will see. But, hey, I think that's something that we should at least acknowledge. Like, that's a pretty good run for that first-year team. They've been underachieving, and I think this weekend they maybe overachieved a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was great to see him run strong. Like, I was hoping to see it sooner rather than later, and that was a great way to get through this part of the summer. It's a strong way to end a doubleheader. I think it's going to be a big boost for this team moving forward. He was able to hold off Ryan Blaney, which isn't easy to do, to get that top 5, which is a strong thing that you can look at. Bubba, he learned throughout the weekend and was able to learn enough throughout that entire process to get that strong finish. Man, even Ryan Preece.
I was just about to say.
Ryan Preece, that team doesn't even have a charter. And this might be one of his last races he gets to do with this team. So it's going to be interesting to see if that has any impact.
Thanks for reminding me. I forgot. When I put our projections in the optimizer, one of the first ones that I did, after I kind of tweaked it and kind of got it where I liked, I'd overlooked the fact that it had put a bunch of Ryan Preece, and it was still kind of using the numbers that we put in before, knowing that he was going to the back. We didn't really adjust it when I transferred it over. So I pretty much cut him out. I'm like, okay, he might make it up and hit a top 20, but starting 23rd or whatever it was, not really worth the risk starting that far back with a uncharted team, Uncharted. God dang. Anyway, the fact that he finished 8th, like he ran 8th, like he was up there for a while. It wasn't that he got a fluky crazy pit strategy that just worked out great. No, I saw him in the top 10 for a good portion of that last part of that race. Incredible. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so a couple guys that you don't necessarily see have those strong finishes, that they were able to do that. Road America, where we're at this week, I think you could see some guys that you're not accustomed to seeing in the top 10 be there again. Road America is going to be an interesting race because it's a shorter race. It's only 250 miles, but the number of laps is at 62 because it's a 4-mile long racetrack. Has some distance to it. There's some blind turns. There's elevation. It's very fun track. If you get the opportunity, go to YouTube, check out a couple different videos of some of the on-track Xfinity action from years past. Mm-hmm. That's been fun. It's very narrow, but you never know what who's going to have an advantage or if there will be an advantage, because there are guys that have some experience here in Xfinity.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I think you got to look at guys like Allgaier and Cindric come to mind right off the bat that will probably be pretty strong, and they'll be in good equipment. Could definitely rival some of our better competitors.
You mean Allmendinger?
What did I say?
Allgaier. Allgaier does definitely have a lot of experience here as well. But Ross Chastain, I was looking at him. He has quite a bit of experience here. Tyler Reddick.
We know how good and aggressive he's been, but in control of his aggression most of the time. And he was running – this year. I meant like in the last few races, not earlier in the year. Right. But he was really good at Sonoma. He ran decent there. You're right. I think Chastain, Allmendinger, they're going to be difficult for guys like Larson, Elliott, and Truex.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic. We've got quite a few different guys coming in to try to qualify for the event. And like we said, qualifying's taking place. There will be a practice event, so we're going back to more of the traditional weekend, which makes it difficult for us with the holiday thrown in the mix. So we won't have our race guide, unfortunately. Like we said, it's something that we really do enjoy doing, and we feel that it adds a whole additional element to what we've got here with the podcast and the race day rundown. But we will take the time and definitely put out our DK impact scores right after qualifying. So make sure that you check our Twitter, and that is you can find that in the description below. It will let you basically have interaction with us. We'd definitely love to have that so that you can see right when we put those impact scores out. It'll be there. Also, if you're a member of our Patreon, we definitely enjoy that. Membership has grown here recently, and it's something that you'll get an instant reminder that we posted something there. But that 1 to 10 score rating we do, it's always fun to be able to have some conversations and who we like. And when we see the qualifying, we'll have a great idea based on salaries and whatnot of who will have a good path to value. But right now, just going through and looking at some data, this is kind of what we want to touch on, and we'll get more as the weekend progresses.
Yeah, we try to bottle our thoughts up from so many different angles and put it into that score. So it's not just on the whim. I mean, we really do kind of consider it from a lot of different angles. But I think aside from those guys who have the experience in Xfinity, I think they will have a leg up. The thing is we still get practice and like obviously qualifying, which is making our job difficult. But I still think that that's enough time for these road course guys, these solid guys, the ones that are up at the charts in almost every statistical category. I think they'll find a way to get it done. One or two may struggle early on. I could see maybe even someone like a Truex kind of struggle to kind of get it initially and then figure it out. Whether that means he qualifies back or not, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if Elliott even struggles just with some of the issues he's had the last few weeks. But I think at the end of the day, if they keep it clean going into the race, it's more than likely going to be Elliott, Larson, and Truex battling top three, and then potentially that Allmendinger, Chastain, maybe Cindric. I don't know if he'll if he really will get up that high, but that's kind of where I'm seeing this. Are you thinking something similar? Are you thinking completely different?
Well, based on what I've looked at, I think I have a little bit different view because I do see, based on data that we've got and the garage thoughts that you've put together and is available on our Patreon, the thing that stood out to me are two guys that are continually being more consistent at road courses, and that's Joey Logano and Alex Bowman. Both of those guys, those are the only two that have top 10s in the 3 races on road courses so far this year. To me, that is a really strong sign of consistency. And Joey Logano has 3 top 5s in our 3 road courses. So I think he's somebody that will rival a Truex and even a Chase Elliott at this point in the season for potentially a win and top 3. It's going to be interesting and fun to watch. But Alex Bowman, he's been on a heater too. He had that win this weekend. He is somebody that has those 3 top 10s in the 3 races on road courses, been strong in the 750 horsepower package. I'm looking at him too as somebody that might be a sleeper this weekend out of some of those guys that you talked about having that Xfinity experience. He doesn't necessarily have that. It's going to be fun to see what happens.
I think another guy you can throw in there, and this is not supported by the stats for the 3 races we run so far on these road courses, but that'd be his teammate William Byron. He wrecked, I believe it was at Sonoma, and finished like last. But if memory serves correct, he was running really well. He was up there with his other Hendrick teammates. He wasn't having a bad day. We've seen him run well at Sonoma in the past. He's a guy who just really learns these tracks well. He does have some decent road course history, but a lot of it is kind of running well in the front and then fading back. So when it comes, we've kind of mentioned this before, when it comes to Byron and this season, I don't completely take all of his prior history and weight it as heavily because he's getting those finishes late. I mean, he was in position to win the race. He was leading when he came to pit, when he flipped the switch in the second race at Pocono because he was running out of fuel. And he was finished 3rd in the first race. I think he's someone that could go up there and challenge him too. His biggest thing, and everyone's biggest thing this week, is just how fast, how technical, and how narrow this track is and how aggressive these guys are. You can have your car in the best position, but someone behind you may not and mess up a corner, and that could really hurt your aero for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. My friends in Wisconsin, if you're up there, you're going to enjoy an awesome race. I know that it's a cool place. I've always wanted to go to that area, but one day I'll get an opportunity, hopefully, to go check out a race there. It's going to be something I definitely want to do. There's so many cool tracks. The road courses have been a staple this year with 7 of them on the schedule. This puts us right in the middle. And is there somebody this year that has really surprised you and stood out more so on road courses that has really been surprising that you weren't expecting, that might have an opportunity to propel themselves into the playoff because they've been able to perform so strongly on road courses? The guy that comes to mind for me is Christopher Bell. How about for you?
Well, Christopher Bell already has the win, so he is in the playoffs. But his other runs at other road courses are not great. I mean, his average finish among the 3 so far is 21st, and that includes a win. Matter of fact, that win is his only top 20.
But I mean, it has propelled him into the playoffs.
It has. So I think if we're kind of putting it that way, because I feel like more than likely someone who already has a win will probably win this race. But if it's not one of those guys, I think Kurt Busch is right up there. So far, his average finish is 12.3. He's got a top 5 and 2 top 10s in the 3 races so far and a 93.5 driver rating. He's also been coming on here lately. He had some he was in did he pit? I think he pit in that second race, right?
I believe so.
For the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
But he was running really well, and I think I should probably go back, but I think he ran well that first race too. Yeah, because he started 15th, so he got like 5th. So that team is starting to click it along, him and his teammate Ross Chastain. And, he's ranked 7th in the driver rating amongst the drivers so far this year. I mean, he's not been terrible. And he actually ranks out 7th when we go from 2018 road course races to current, so that's 11. His average finish is 10.7 and 3 top 5. So if you're asking me in that kind of way, who's someone who might propel themselves into the playoffs, I got to go with Kurt Busch.
Yeah, and talking about playoffs, we've got a slim lead there with Denny Hamlin at the top between Kyle Larson.
That evaporated.
Yeah, it's only like 3 points or something like that right now, and that is something that Denny Hamlin, I think, really this weekend has to focus on because he is fairly strong at road courses. He's going to be somebody, I think, that will find himself in the mix here because the average finish for him is 8th on road courses this season, so he is strong. He does have the ability, the car, especially in this 750 horsepower package, to be able to compete with everybody we've just talked about. They're going to try to find themselves or put themselves in positions to get stage points and to contend for a win and to, if things, I guess, play out, they want to be able to have themselves in a position for that regular season championship. And a win helps them do that, but having stage wins and points like that helps too.
In the last 11 road course races, he has 4 top 5s. So I can definitely see him running well. But the thought that crossed my mind when you were saying that is, could you I don't expect this to happen, but could you imagine if, based on what's happened, there's some sort of internal just drama that lets loose and the team implodes and misses the playoffs?
That would be wild.
I don't see that happening, but could you imagine, like, you're up at the top all year and then, what's more likely is that he falls down a few spots and doesn't come in as the regular season champion, and like maybe comes in barely on points. That would be something, having to race his way in.
There's so many winners, and we still have quite a few races. Like
It could happen.
It could happen. They've been advertising on the commercials when to get in.
Yeah.
And if they're already advertising that, yeah, I'm sure they've got some things set up where we're going to have some excitement at the end. That's for sure.
Well, I think they definitely are. They have tried to align the schedule to try to create as much drama throughout the year. And so far, I think they've done a pretty good job. I don't know if they truly expected this many winners, or maybe they did. I don't know. But it has been pretty wild. And you're right. I mean, Kurt Busch, I think, is currently in just barely on points. So if he manages to pull it out this weekend, there's another spot locked in. Oh, man, this is wild. This is a great year.
It has been great, but there's some guys down at the bottom that towards that cut line, or guys that are even now well behind it, like Matty D, for instance. This weekend wasn't strong for him by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. And you look at road courses this season for him, and his average finish is almost 28th. This could be a weekend where he completely goes off the radar, or he has to find himself in a position where he is there for a win. I don't know if we see that this weekend. It could be the beginning of the end for him this season.
I don't want to agree with you, but I definitely have to agree with you. And if I'm kind of looking around, I think Daytona, maybe a Darlington, possibly might be the only opportunities he would have to win. I think Daytona is the best shot if he's in a must-win situation to get into the playoffs. Because Atlanta, I guess Atlanta he could. He's not been too bad on the 550 mile and a half. He could do it there, but more than likely he just gets a solid finish. But that might not be enough. Loudon, not sure about that one. Again, another road course, 2 back-to-back would be Watkins Glen and Indianapolis. If they continue this streak, those are out. So I think the way the team's running, I think it might come down to having to win at Daytona, and that's going to be a lot of players, a lot of drivers. Bubba Wallace would kind of come to mind. He's going to be, I'm sure, really aggressive there, trying to get in.
But he's already found himself in a better position than Matty D at this point. But his road course consistency is right there with Matty D this year. It's not that strong. But there's a lot of guys in the middle, I believe, the pricing structure that usually fall there, like Austin Dillon. He's somebody that has an average top 20 guy, not really the best example, but Chase Briscoe. He's somebody on road courses that potentially top 20 based on his price tag. You could find some value there. Ryan Preece, Eric Jones, those guys typically find themselves in road course environments, and we look at that road course history through this year, and those three guys that I just mentioned, I think could be contenders for some value this week.
So I want to say, if it wasn't clear, we are recording this before salaries are out, so we don't know what salaries are going to be. But just as something that's a little maybe kind of fun, do you think for sure Elliott, Larson, and Truex are the three most expensive drivers?
I would imagine so.
Who comes in who do you think's the top? Larson, Elliott, Truex, or Elliott, Larson, Truex?
No, it'll probably be Larson, Elliott, Truex at this point.
And what do you think DraftKings is going to do with their salary? Because there's not a lot of laps, so you can lead all the laps. And what did you say? There's like 40-something performance points. There's not that much. What do you think? You think they're going to adjust for that, or do you think he's going to come in at like a 12.5 again?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I think it'll be adjusted, so we'll see more consistency overall, I would hope.
I have a feeling that they're going to price those guys up a little bit.
Well,
but I kind of hope they do, because we've already mentioned several guys I think could be really, really strong.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of guys in the mix, and those three guys, Chase Briscoe, and we saw him running strong at the road course, could have had a better finish there at Daytona, but had the issue with the hood. He finished fairly well at Sonoma and strong at Coda, so he's somebody to consider. I think Ryan Preece, coming off the strong finish, he's somebody that would be to look at. It's going to be fun to see who has good who has good practices, who's strong in practice, and then ultimately on qualifying there on Sunday morning, it's going to be very interesting and shape up where we get to determine where the value lies.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think someone potentially might go a little under the radar too. He already has a win, so he's not worried about the playoffs, but Ryan Blaney, we've seen him run pretty strong at certain road courses. It's going to be tough this week, because I think this is going to be – I think Coda would have ended up being a really great race and had more hype had there not been as much rain. I mean, we enjoyed it, obviously, but that's a very technical, tough track. But they were tested beyond that because of the rain, and it wasn't a fair comparison. As long as they don't have something similar at this track, I don't think they will. I think this is going to be a very challenging race for all of these drivers. I don't really know if we're going to see kind of the norm, other than maybe what we've already kind of talked about. I think this could end up being a very kind of different race. We may see some guys really excel at this track, and others, like a Harvick, who has pretty good road course history. Maybe someone like him does really well, or maybe he really misses it, because these are wide cars and they do not handle well, and it's very technical around this track. It's not going to be a terribly long race as far as, a lot of laps and miles, but we may even see some equipment issue come into play too, some brakes, because there's a lot of corners. So
yeah, it's going to be fun. I believe there's 14 turns. It kind of looks like somebody doing a little flex. It's going to be fun. I think the technical aspect of it will come into play, and guys maybe like Michael McDowell that have experience here. He has a win in Xfinity.
That's right.
He has a top 15 car when we're looking at road courses, and this kind of package is going to be fun to see if he's able to find his way into a position to potentially get a second win for that team. It's going to be fun to see guys in positions like that.
And the other thing, there's a couple factors that we may not normally consider, but is a 4-mile track. So caution laps are really long. And what happens if you're on the opposite side of the track and you have a problem? That's going to take a lot of time, extra laps. Who knows how many true green flag laps we get to run here. And then the other thing, I was listening to the Door Bumper Clear podcast, and they were talking about, I think spotting could be a little bit of an issue with how narrow it is. it's hard for them to see. I guess wherever they're the main, they'll have several spotters around the track, but I guess where the main spot where I guess the lead spotters stand or spot from, wherever it's at on the track, they said there's like, there's like the main part in front of them, they go away and then they come back and then you spot for them for a little bit and then they disappear. You hear someone else spot and then they come back around. So they spot two different areas of the track. I think that could be a little challenging. And because it's so tight and technical, we may just see more fenders being rubbed, more tires going down. This could become, we may see a little bit of carnage on this race too with how aggressive all of these drivers are.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see who's aggressive in what situations. I think somebody that might take advantage of a race like this and try to find an opportunity after struggling a bit this weekend would be Chris Buescher. He's somebody that has found opportunities in road course environments and in 750 horsepower races to have pretty strong finishes. I think he's got an average finish of 13th in road courses or road course races this year. He's somebody that really needs, like we were talking about the playoffs, some strong finishes and opportunities in races like this. I think will give him an opportunity to maybe get closer to the playoffs or maybe even get a win if wild strategy is in the mix.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what DraftKings does with the pricing. I'd love to be giving you guys some solid value plays. We don't know where they're going to be priced at, and then obviously that they could get a solid pricing, and then qualifying could completely screw that up, or vice versa. We won't know that until the day of the race. But if you were to kind of pick a race winner and then maybe a little bit of a contrarian, and I'll just kind of tell you my contrarian play is I'm going to go with Kurt Busch. I would kind of consider that a little contrarian. Who would be your contrarian? And then we'll get into our actual race winners.
Well, it's one of those, I'm looking at it, and I would have to go with a guy like, man, it's so difficult. There's so many guys, and we've talked about so many of them. You mentioned Kurt Busch. I think I would have to land on, it's not really a contrarian because he is a ringer. It's Allmendinger. He's in different equipment, so he's not.
Honestly, I think it might be a little bit better equipment than he had before.
And that's what that's why I'm thinking it's going to be fun to see if he's able to make it stick. If they're on the level of these other guys, we're going to see kind of where they're at. They've been super strong, top 6 upside every single time he's been out there.
The average finish is 6.
Yeah, that top 5 upside every single time with that 6th place average finish is super, super strong. He's somebody that I would look to have that outside advantage, or not really have an advantage, but if you're looking from on the outside in, you wouldn't necessarily think of him as a contender, but he is a road course ringer. He's somebody I would look to as being able to sneak out.
I would imagine he's going to be chalk. So
way
to take the chalk, Joe. Okay.
You asked who I thought. I really look at Dinger as somebody that's going to be.
Oh, I think he's going to be good. I don't know if I consider him contrarian because I think a lot of people be watching him, but I understand where you're coming from because I think his 7th and I believe it was 5th at Coda. And to be able to survive the rain and all that, for sure. And I believe he does have experience here. Yeah, we mentioned that. So, of course, race winner.
Race winner, it's going to be, I think it's going to come down to Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott. And Chase Elliott needs it more.
For sure.
I think he's going to try to do everything in his power to say, hey, I'm still the guy here at Hendrick, and try to use this. I've been looking. I've had this race circled for a couple of weeks, looking at Chase Elliott to be able to capitalize on it. And I'm hoping, and I really think he does get it done this weekend. How about you?
I really do as well. I agree completely. I think they need it. They need it more than Larson. We didn't have a great week at Pocono. Week before that, it was the disqualification at Nashville. They need some good momentum, and I think they will get good momentum. And honestly, I agree with that pick. I probably would have picked that guy if you didn't, but I'm going to be a little different. I'm going to go with Joey Logano. I mean, we already mentioned in the 3 races, I believe 3 top 5s. He's been strong. We know he's good in the 750 horsepower package. It seems to be something that he's been way better at than the 550s. He's a really good driver. I think he could get it done, and who knows, maybe Larson and Elliott get into it a little bit. I mean, who knows what can happen. So I'll just be a little contrarian. I'll go Logano, but if I see practice and qualifying not go great, I might pivot off of that.
We'll see what happens.
Just shooting blind.
We still have a lot to left to unfold over the weekend. We definitely appreciate everybody out there that's been watching and taking part in all of our fun activities. We had a lot of participants in our DraftKings contest, which is free, by the way. So if you are interested in getting on the weekly invite list, drop your DK tag below in the comments. We'll send you an invite. It's been a lot of fun to get some competition that is there, and just fun to see everybody kind of chat afterwards on Twitter. So make sure you're over there. Like I said, we're going to be releasing the DK Impact scores there on Sunday after we get to witness qualifying and really understand where the value is going to fall this weekend. So make sure you check us out there. And we absolutely love all of our Patreon members. That's a huge asset. We wish we could do some more live stuff, but it takes money to do that. And the people that are on our Patreon helping us out there, we really do appreciate it, and thank you a lot. That helps us be able to get equipment and bring you more live relative content.
Yeah, because at some point when we can get everything where we need it to be, we can be doing live race day rundowns and interacting with you guys, answering your questions, but we're just not quite to that level. But, hey, we'll get there, and we'll get there with you guys' help. So, I'm really looking forward to this. Love the July 4th weekend. It's always just a fun time. Last year was obviously a little bit of a downer, but it seems like everyone's kind of in much better spirits these days for the most part. And I know if you're going to be out there at Road America, it's going to be a heck of a time. I wish we were going there. I wish we were camping again. It was fun here at COTA, but I bet it's going to be even better. And I was also jealous of all the campers and people camping out at Pocono. I mean, holy crap. I mean, they showed up. Beautiful part of the country. Road America, this track, it's also in another beautiful part of the country. Really wish we were there. Maybe next year we'll see what happens. But I'm really excited for this race. I think it's fun. I was a little bummed initially when I heard that they moved Daytona off of the July 4th. But it's Road America. I mean, they did this one right, I think.
Absolutely. So without further ado, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. I'm Joe, that's Jeremy, and this is the DK Garage. We'll see you next time.